All right, everybody, and welcome to the third episode now of the Sunny Days in Detroit show. Myself, Pasq. To my right of me is Pavo, and new to the show, our friend Patrick. So welcome, Patrick. If you want to tell us about it yourself before we get going.
Yeah. So I'm more of a migrant of the Lions fan base. Barry Sanders made me fall in love with football, fall in love with the Lions, and never looked back. I'm from the Philly area, but me and Pavo met when I had his work, and it just was a destiny for us to become friends and just go to Lions games and be super fans together. So it's been a awesome 6 years or so since we met. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, can't believe it's been
That's
6
awesome.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Somewhat similar to me. I'm New York, but wasn't.
You're a
Barry was a
Stafford
little
guy.
before my time. Yeah, I'm a Stafford guy.
Yeah.
Always be a Stafford guy.
And I got to watch both guys play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to touch Stafford actually.
I know. He cut his hair. I know.
Yeah,
It sounds a little weird when you say that out loud. For context, Paul is a hairdresser.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't just touch itchy ear.
Okay.
Didn't just touch
for-
Stafford.
And for
Got
additional
to-
context, guys can enjoy a salon as well. I go to Pavo's establishment because it's a nice place. I can relax. They do a good job. They make you feel comfortable. It's not your just cookie cutter operation. So, gentlemen out there, treat yourself. Go to a real salon.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I mean, got to meet Stafford that way. Got to meet Pat. We got to get you in this seat here, Matt.
Yeah, you're gonna tame this mane.
Yeah, that I mean, you have to come up to Long Island, So
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, so we got New Orleans this week. Lions are looking for a bounce back. We talked about it last Friday. Got spanked on Thanksgiving. I would call it a spanking. The score was close in the end, but that was not up to our standards. I mean, we always talk about just win, right? Al Davis, just win, baby, right? But you got to look cleaner than that. And even if the Lions had won that game, you still can't be happy with what you saw. And it starts with the turnovers, and we're gonna get into the three big things that the Lions need to do right to win in New Orleans on Sunday. But it really starts with the turnovers with this team, because me and Paul talk about it every day. I piss and moan about this defense. Massive underachievers, but it's very, very, very difficult to play defense in this league when you're constantly giving the other team's offense the ball in your territory. Because at that point, you're giving up at least three, right?
Yeah.
So you're giving them a lot less field to work on. You're putting a ton of pressure on your defense. So let's get into that. I kind of spilt the beans. Pat, you're new to the show. Today's your first night. What's the one thing you think the Lions really need to do to win on Sunday, specifically against the Saints?
Yeah, well, I think you already nailed it on the head. It's the turnovers. So when I look at this team and the way they were built and constructed and the way they're building for the future, it's really about this team's only going to go as far as Goff takes them. And if Goff turns it over, I don't think we have a defense that has enough talent to make up for that. So the room and error for margin is super thin in that regard. And Goff's been nothing but fantastic. And I'll be an open-ended Goff critic, but he's been fantastic from about mid-year last year up to this point on that. And now you're seeing a bit of those pieces that you saw of kind of the reasons Rams traded him away. And now it's time to look at a team that has a good defense. Their offense, not so much. I think we match up well. But with their defense, they're going to be down their top cornerback and Marshawn Lattimore. They do still have some talent outside of that, and I do believe they are a good coverage defense. So this is a good test to me to play a good defense, play great defensive backs, don't turn the ball over. And I think if we can start there, that's going to be the recipe for success, without getting too much into the offensive side of the ball. But you can't – Bears was luck of the draw, right? There was so many ways that could have went against us. 99% chance of loss in that, and then we won it.
98.8,
Yeah.
98.8.
98.8. So like, when you factor that in and just look at it as we stole one, you're not going to do that week in, week out. And we're certainly not going to do that against playoff teams. We just played what were considered two bottomish barrel teams in the NFC, and you just got to recoup. And I think this is a perfect team to do this against because they're still trying to find their way on offense. Their defense is good. So great offensive showing here. Maybe do a little something on the defense to get them in rhythm. And I think that could have huge dividends for the rest of the season because like they got to kind of make that shift at this point. You know, 1 game, shame on you. 2 games, shame on me. 3 games kind of becomes not so much a coincidence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pavo, what's your one thing?
My one thing is like a pretty. I mean, I think both of our points are pretty. Hey, you got to win the turnover battle. That's huge, you know. And that's the one thing. Lions are turning the ball over, but they're not even creating turnovers, you know, which is bad. So, I mean, my one thing is I think we got to establish this run game. The Saints are a pretty good cover team. I think they're in the top 6, 7, 8, something like right around 6, 7, 8 in the passing game on defense. But they're bottom 10 in the rushing game. But they've been also struggling with the rush as of recent. They gave up 228 yards on the ground to Atlanta. I think at one point Atlanta exposed them so much that Atlanta, I believe, chose to run the ball 16 straight times. Like that's college football. Like that's just saying you can't stop us. We're coming at you. And I believe they averaged right around 5 yards a carry. They got Cordell Peterson involved. They got Ritter involved. They used multiple ways to expose them. And with Goff struggling right now, and he is struggling, and if it's him not feeling comfortable in the pocket and he thinks he needs to escape the pocket faster than he normally did, and he's not protecting the ball when he is, and he's getting fumbled, I think to take the ball out of his hands a little bit right here and go back to the run game, I think would be huge for the Lions. You know, go in there and, you know, establish that run game early and then go to the pass game. Sometimes teams like to try to establish the pass game, then go run. I think this is an important thing at the Superdome. I know their fans are frustrated. Their team's frustrated. Players are saying there's no identity. I think to go in there, take the crowd out, go on a couple nice long drives, and I think it would be important for them.
As important as Jared is to the success of this team, the identity is still run first. Exactly. You know, and I hear you, Paul, because I feel like they've moved like Ben Johnson's reached into that bag a little too much this year. And as much as we all want to get mad at Aaron Glenn, and we have the right to be, 1,000% we have the right to be, Ben Johnson, I think we got to be honest. We expect more out of you, right? You're the better You're the better coordinator, right?
Yeah.
And you've got a lot more talent on your side of the ball than Aaron does on his. Like, there comes a point in a game where you need to slow it down. And you're a strong, well-oiled machine on offense where you could successfully do that. Like, all the analysts, all the people in football, we all talk about that. We all talk about, hey, slow the game down, run the ball. I shouldn't say 9 out of teams. Like, 70% of the league can't actually do that. 70% of the league can't actually line up in an I formation and pound the rock up the middle. The Lions are one of those teams, right? All the teams that could do that are some of the best teams in football. The Lions, the Eagles, the Falcons could do that. I wouldn't consider them one of the best teams, but they have an elite run game. There's no doubt about it. So I agree with you 100%, Paul, and I definitely have more on that after my one thing. My one thing is on the other side, right? Because I agree with both of you. Stop the turnovers, okay? They're completely unnecessary. This isn't the days of Matthew Stafford trying to come back in the fourth quarter. Like, we shouldn't be in those positions against teams like that, right? The turnovers were ridiculous. They weren't even, a tipped pass here and there, fine. But Jared Goff, hold on to that ball, okay? No reason to fumble it like you did. But I'm going to go to the other side. And I'm looking at the defense here. And I'm no longer really looking at the players as much. I'm looking at Aaron Glenn. It's a fact. Like, we don't have pass rushers. We all know that. We've got Aiden Hutchinson, and that's it. That's literally it. Liam McNeil does a wonderful job against the run, and that's what he's paid to do. That's what he was drafted to do. But you need to find a way to manufacture pressure. You need to find a way to manufacture sacks. Great coordinators figure it out. Okay, we watched 2 decades of Bill Belichick in New England find a way to make Kyle Van Noy a household name, to make Trey Flowers a household name. Like guys that aren't necessarily scrubs, but played well out of their fucking shoes in New England. And why? Why? Because he's a fantastic coordinator. Say what you want about his head coaching strategies. The man knows defense and he knows how to generate pressure. I don't want to hear any more about how bad Charles Harris and all these other guys are. You know what? Collectively, you all, because I believe the front office and the coaching staff work hand in hand in this regime. I think everybody gets input on everything. I really do. You collectively, as an organization, made a decision at the deadline to do nothing. You brought in Peoples-Jones, fine, but you made a decision to not go out and get Chase Young, to not go out and get Montez Sweat. That was your decision. Fine. You want to sell me on CJ Gardner-Johnson and James Houston coming back, changing things? Okay, but until that happens, until those guys are healthy, you need to find a way to manufacture pressure. And oh, by the way, you have to do it without Alex Anzalone probably till I don't know when, the middle of December, because when Dan says a guy's going to be out for a little while, we don't know what that means. So that's what I'm looking at this week. How are you going to respond to really not counting the streak in the end of the Bears game, essentially no sacks in the past 2-3 games now. How are you going to respond, Aaron Glenn? We can't ask anything more out of Aiden Hutchinson. The man's doing everything possible to get to the quarterback here. Could he be a little better? Sure. But you know what? Maybe those guys on the other side of the line could do their fucking job too. Find a way. If that means blitzing his safety, so be it. Send Brian Branch. He's got the skill set. He's got the tackling skills to bring down a quarterback. You got to figure something out, because what we're seeing right now, the past 2 weeks, we watched games where you essentially said to the defense, hey, we don't have it. We don't have it today, so you guys figure it out. And really, maybe you could say against the Bears game, maybe they kind of did, but like the Packers game, they didn't have answers. And how could they? You kept giving them the ball on the other side of the field. And you're wasting third downs, 3rd and 2, and you're chucking it 40 yards down the field to Khalif Raymond. What's wrong with you? So defensively, figure it out. Because what we've seen will not survive in January. It's cute against the Bears. It's a fun story. The Bucs stopped in Ford Field on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, listen, I agree. The one thing that worries me about Aaron Glenn right now is that I feel like he's almost like, and I don't know, I'm not in the in Allen Park, I'm not in the headquarters, but it almost seems like he has that stubbornness that my system works and the players have to play it, and he's not adjusting.
Matt Patricia.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I'm being so stubborn that they just need to do their job, and if they do their job, they're gonna have success. Well, I feel like you need to get creative. Like last time we saw the defense get creative was against the Raiders, and they produced 8 sacks. You sent guys different times. You got to figure out how to get to the quarterback. You got to make the quarterback, especially a not great quarterback, feel uncomfortable, because they will stay uncomfortable. You get a guy like a Patrick Mahomes, make him feel uncomfortable earlier in the game, he'll get comfortable again because he's an MVP. He's a Pro Bowler. Hurts will get comfortable. Make a guy Love feel uncomfortable. And going back this week to David Carr, you got to make David Carr feel uncomfortable. So,
I agree with you guys, and I think I think like 2 tails of this, right? So I think you are right. The Bears may be a bit of an anomaly because, when they're driving downfield and you're kind of pushing teams more towards field goals after letting up 2-3 touchdowns, you can talk about adjustments and maybe something's working, or maybe they're taking the foot off the gas and they don't want to risk incompletions and burn the clock out. So it's really hard to identify exactly where the cause lies without really, sitting there for hours on end breaking down film, which I'm sure none of us have time to do. So it's really interesting in that aspect. And then when you move to the Green Bay game, you said it's not as close as it looks earlier. And I think that's so spot on, because in reality, they were a Dobbs drop away from that being more of a 30-something to 15 game, not looking like a 1-score game. So like when you like factor in those types of things, and it kind of puts AG in a better light because the score is all we really remember at the end of the year. We don't go back and look at every little play that happened. Those are the things we're thinking. We're kind of looking at the larger picture. And I think that's what we're starting to kind of see with AG is like, yeah, it's here's our scheme. We can't really change much, or maybe they're not capable of change. Maybe that's the problem. Because Jerry Jacobs, I thought he was on the up and up, like in the first few games, coming off the injury, looked good before the injury, and has just nose dove. And it's been quite unfortunate because great story, life of the guy, great personality, but they seem just to target him all day long. And I always see him chasing down a guy, and the guy usually doesn't catch it, so it doesn't show up on the stat sheet too badly. But it's not getting better, and we're missing also something to think about. Isn't the top two guys that are supposed to fix this problem? CJ GJ, as well as Mosley. They were supposed to fix this. Imagine if on the offensive side, if all of a sudden Ben Johnson's missing Sam Laporta and say Khalif Raymond or Reynolds, like someone that's like their number 2 receiver and 3 option. And they only have their number 1 guy in Sutton. It's a lot harder for Goff to navigate around that offense with the 4th and 5th and 6th receiver. So I do give a little bit of leniency to him in that regard, but you can't. How much longer can you make excuses? This is the NFL. So at the end of the day, like where I do want to give him a little credit where it's due and not get too pile-on mentality, I just don't see a path where if this continues, you can like how you trot him out there as like, no, this is the right guy.
Well,
I just don't.
It's the NFL. It's the NFL, right? What does that stand for? It stands for not for long when you're doing a shitty job. And like, man, like Jared, like really, I'm looking at Jared for a lot of the past 2 weeks. I really am. Not so much. I wish Ben Johnson was the adult in the room on Thursday, at least, right? I wish Ben Johnson, because I compared it the other day. I don't know if we did on the show. I compared a quarterback in the first quarter is similar to your starting pitcher in the beginning of a game. You could tell after the first, second inning if he's got it or he doesn't have it that day, right? So when you don't have it, you need to go back to some of the things you do the best to try to manufacture outs, at least to get you to the 5th or 6th inning, right? That's a baseball analogy. In football, you need to recognize when your quarterback does not have it, no matter how much he tells you, no, Ben, I'm right there, Ben, I got it. That was one little mistake, and no, I'm going to fix this. Okay, that's great, Jared, but I've seen you do this before. And right now, I'm not putting our division hopes here in a divisional game on you telling me I got it. I just can't do that right now because I know when you don't have it. Today, you don't. And maybe you don't tell him that, but it goes back to the slowing the game down. It was the biggest problem. The biggest problem Thursday was Jared didn't have time to throw. Jared, I mean, we could critique Jared all we want, and we fucking well-deserved Jared, but he had guys his face instantly. Yet when we ran the ball, we were running however much we wanted for however long we wanted. He should have leaned on that. And when you want to pass the ball, quick slants. Get the ball out quick. You got receivers all over the place that run 4.3, 4.4, 4.5 40s. Oh, by the way, you just drafted a guy, number 12th overall, that's also a slot receiver. If you want him to be, dump it out to him. And if they're blitzing all those guys, there's more guys available. There's more space open in the secondary for your receivers to do damage. Dump it off to one of those guys, and I'm not talking any of those bullshit screen passes. I swear to God, if I see another screen pass, I'm going to put my fucking head through my flat screen. I'm so tired of seeing screen passes. Dump the ball out quick, move the chains, and let your playmakers that you draft and you talk so highly of because they're talented, let them make a play. We are not going to play our best football, good whether the offensive line's playing well or not. Our best football will not be played if Jared's in the pocket for 7 seconds. It's not how it's going to work. I understand every now and again a deep pass, but you got to manufacture ways of these guys getting open and dumping it out to them. Because I guarantee you, if we had done that Thursday, they would have taken their foot off the gas blitzing 100%. Because you can't give up 10-yard gains, right? Only the Lions defense could do that and have the coordinator still have a job. So...
Yeah, I mean, they had an opportunity. Listen, at no point of the game were they down 3 possessions. So like they had every opportunity to keep establishing the run.
Absolutely.
There wasn't a time in the
Absolutely.
game where you like even when they scored the last touchdown, they got the ball. Well, they got the ball with 4 minutes left when they scored that last to score that last touchdown. But prior to that, they had the ball with like 9 minutes and they stayed within 2 possessions. They could have played their game, and their game is run the ball, establish their passing game. And they went away from it. And you know what? I also feel it was a game that, I said something when I was at the game. I said something. They went heavy Montgomery early in the game, and Gibbs really wasn't involved. And I don't know if it was another, another because he's a college player and he hasn't really played in his career off of 3 days rest, where he ran a good amount the week before, so they didn't want to use him as much in this game. But I thought they should have involved Gibbs more. And the first drive they went down so smooth and scored. And honestly, Jameson Williams was out there for the whole entire possession, and I watched him every single possession. They were paying attention to where he was. There's a catch that I forgot if Laporta made, and Laporta only made that catch because the whole middle of the field was open because the safety, and once again, went with him. And Laporta, I think, caught a pass over the middle for like 25 yards. And then the next time they got the ball, they start coming out with these big packages. 3 tight ends, Mitchell, Skipper, Wright, Laporta. They went heavy. And they also went heavy, and they didn't run the ball. They went heavy, and they threw it to slow, big targets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I just didn't understand the game plan of that game. But
So let's get into the Saints game a little. They're playing the Saints. I believe Pat just brought it up before. It's 1:00 game. Marshawn Lattimore was just put on IR. That's their best. That's probably their best defender. Fantastic corner. I want to say out of Ohio State. Was he an Ohio State guy, Paul? You would probably know the answer to this.
Lattimore, there was a Lattimore from Ohio State, but is it him?
I think
Yeah,
Lattimore.
I think it was.
Yeah, Lattimore and what's his name?
Yeah,
Weren't
Ohio
they,
State.
and Michael
okay,
Thomas.
yeah.
Weren't they teammates?
Michael Thomas might have been. I don't know. No, I don't know.
Wasn't
I
he?
don't know.
Chris
Chris Olave.
We're going back a little too far for me.
Yeah. Michael Thomas on IR. That's their main guy. That's their receiver. Chris Olave, another big receiver. He's questionable. I don't
think he plays. I don't think he plays because he actually suffered a pretty decent concussion last year.
Oh, he was the one that had a concussion. Okay.
Yeah, last year, and he missed a couple games, and I think this is his second concussion of his young career. And I just don't see them taking their young, talented receiver and playing him this week when he's going on his second concussion.
And another big one here. Cam Jordan's questionable. It says a shin injury. You have to maybe assume he plays through that, but I don't know the extent of the shin injury. I mean, because they're still in it.
They're also missing the Sneeze. Is that how you say his name? They're missing their number 3 receiver, wide receiver too, and he's not going to play. They say he's going to miss.
Yeah,
miss a couple weeks.
Shaheed.
He's got a quad thing going on.
He's not going to play. He's listed day to day, but I listened to Dennis Allen talk about him today, and he escaped a serious injury, which they feared it was going to be something serious, but he's not going to play.
Okay.
And this will be the absolute litmus test for Aaron Glenn. When you're playing a team that has not found its identity on offense and they're missing their 3 receivers, when you pretty much it's either just make sure Malvin Kamara doesn't break a 40-yard screen is your only worry in the game. If they can't make that look pedestrian, that's what gives me a lot of hesitation in what we can do in the playoffs, because like you mentioned it earlier, it just doesn't. This won't fly in the playoffs. This won't fly against the Eagles. This won't fly against San Fran. It's just not going to work like that. But on the other side, with some of these guys actually playing, I do think there is a chance they lean heavier into playing a guy that's questionable, because they are right in the middle of the pack of their division, and every game from here on out matters so much to them to win that seat from their division. So I do think if a guy's right there, 90%, they could sit him if it was a better position for them playoff wise, but you never know. I don't know, because Dennis Allen has a lot of good faith at New Orleans, so I don't think he's on the hot seat by any means, but you never really know.
Oh, he's on the hot seat. I've
been going back and forth in my head. Yeah.
Oh, he's on the hot seat. I was listening to their insiders today, and he is known to be on the hot seat, and it's not a happy place there right now. Listen, they got a really talented roster. This team is underachieving big time. And not only that, I mean, Alvin Kamara, he goes in the locker room and says, "We do not have an identity," and he says, "I'm tired of hearing we just got to get better, or we just have to do better." The players say they still believe in one another, but I think I don't think I don't think that players believe what the coaches are saying. I think there's a disconnect between the players and the coaches. Coaches are saying they're an explosive team, and then I was reading yes, I think they have 6+ plays over 40 yards, which is second in the league. So yes, they have playmakers because they have 6+ 40-yard plays, but then I believe they only have 18, 20+ plays, which ranks towards the bottom in the NFL. Against Atlanta, they were 0 for 5 in the red zone. They can't get the ball in. They're not probably going to have 3 of their starting receivers. They don't have a tight end. They've been sitting Jimmy Graham. Graham has been inactive for 4 weeks. So I don't see where that, for your point, if Aaron Glenn don't get these guys straight, at least Green Bay had some receivers. Watson can go up and get it. The talent's there.
There's
Dobbs.
zero excuse here. There's no room for excuse in this game.
Derek Carr is also a guy really known for turning the ball over. Here's a game where you should be able to find a way to get some desperate interceptions from them in the second half. You really should. I don't want to see Jared. I don't want to see anybody turn the ball over ever, but I would literally rather see Jared not throw a single touchdown than to see him throw for even 2 or 3 or 4 touchdowns and still turn the ball. I don't want to see him turn the ball over, man. I really don't, because that's what's concerning. Well, we could always, in the dark days of Jared Goff, right, as bad as he was here, as bad as he was in L.A., what we could always hang our hat on when you watched him,
he would say,
he doesn't turn the ball over. He's got a nice arm, and he doesn't turn the ball over.
Yep.
So he may not make every throw, but he's going to put it in a position where the defensive back can't get it either.
Yeah.
And it's not even like he's getting, like I said, tipped passes, or he's fumbling, running out of the pocket. The dumbest ways to turn the. I'd rather see you throw into fucking double coverage than fumble on your way out of the pocket. What was that? That was completely useless. Useless.
I was gonna say it earlier. Listen, if you have a turnover because you're trying to make a big play, I could live with it. When it's just a lack of knowing your surroundings or what's happening, running for it with the ball out here, and Jared Goff running with it, not tucking it away and protecting the ball, it's inexcusable.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm joking, but let's be honest. That is a big play for Jared Goff. He's not a runner. So that's him breaking it up the middle and running for 10 yards for a first down. That's huge for him. So
Yeah.
but also going back to the turnover thing, this was part of the reason he got traded. He went 20+ turnovers 2 years in a row between fumbles and interceptions. And this was part of the problem they had there. And I don't put it all on him now, seeing what he's been able to do with the offense. He has a little more say and control and kind of connection with the OC on. I can put that behind me and just kind of look forward to what he's done in Detroit. But let's not forget that is a person he was, a realistic 2-year span, 3-year span he had in the NFL pretty recently.
Well, so, I mean, that's kind of where we are with Jared, right? Jared, you don't have to make every throw. You don't have to be Superman. You don't have to be, at times, he's been a top 5 quarterback when he's here. There's been times, right? Literally a couple weeks ago.
Long periods of time.
Right? No, right. So I'm not disputing that. But one thing, Jared, to me, you got to give me a minute here on this. So Jared's got a cap, right? I love Jared. I think Jared's got a fantastic arm. I think he's a brilliant guy. I think he's a guy that people love to play for and play around. And that's a big deal, right? That's a big deal. However, you don't have the cushion that a Lamar Jackson has, or I want to say a Stafford, but you want to name somebody else, a Pat Mahomes. you don't have the cushion that other guys have.
You
Like,
don't have the athletic ability to make up for the mistakes.
but that's what I'm trying to say. Like, when you start to turn the ball over, now you're a complete liability, because now there's no, when Jared gets into that zone where he's fumbling and he's throwing the ball like an idiot, like, now you're a liability. Now there's nothing you could do right, and now I'm almost better putting into. And I'm not advocating for Teddy Bridgewater, but like, Jared, you want a one-way ticket out of town? You want to avoid that extension? Keep turning the ball over, man, because that's the way to do it. And listen, we're not going to see Hooker this year. He's going to start practicing, but I'm just saying he's helping his case. He's not helping his case. No, I would be surprised if he did, but he's going to see the practice field. I would imagine. Doesn't matter. All I'm trying to say to you, Paul, is that there's no grace for Jared Goff turning the ball over, because he's not the most mobile guy. He's not a super athletic guy. You start turning the ball over, you're out.
Listen, Jared Goff was a superstar quarterback when he was throwing.
Paul, move toward the mic.
Sorry. Jared Goff was a star quarterback when he doesn't turn the ball over, because he's smart. He can make the throws. He manages the game. He doesn't get rattled and all that. I think I texted you guys. I said, he continues playing like this, he's gonna be playing for his job.
Yeah.
And that's
I think
reality.
he does get rattled. I think you just saw him get rattled 2 weeks in a row.
Honestly, I think more, and I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt because he played. I think this streak right now is more just a bad streak. It's a starting pitcher who comes out and he's pitched great for 9 straight games, and all of a sudden he's 9-0, or he's pitched 11 games and he has 2 no decisions, 9 wins.
He's a clunker,
maybe a loss, and now he got hit a couple times,
I'm somewhere in the middle, Paul. I get it, because it is it's an uncharacteristically bad stretch of 2 games for him. I agree. However, and Pat, I didn't say this to you. I was telling this to Paul before. The blueprint is kind of out on him now, and that doesn't mean he's bad. It doesn't mean he's bad. Listen, there's a blueprint to beat Lamar Jackson, and he's phenomenal. If you could corral Lamar, you could beat Lamar.
The blueprints to get to Jared Goff and hit and make him uncomfortable, and that's every pocket passing quarterback.
I guess so. Yeah.
But
now we saw it. But now we saw it.
It's not just like Goff personally. It's the system. So there's a few plays in the Bears game I noticed where they jumped routes with impeccable timing to the point it's almost felt like they knew what they were doing. The drop pick 6, how they knew to get in the way of the receiver when they. It just seems like they kind of got ahead of the game plan of routes and stuff like that, which threw Goff off. Which I don't exactly put directly on him. This is a team that they've already said it. This is Goff and Ben creating a system that works for Jared Goff to everything he likes to do, but with all the wrinkles that Ben has in it. I just don't look at it's less of this season of a worry and more of signing a guy that's 30 years old to a 5-year contract and expecting a guy that pretty much needs a top 5 line and things to be really good for him from an offensive coordinator for that success. Because we've seen what happens on the other side when the offensive line starts not playing as well. It's not like he didn't have weapons in Rams when he wasn't playing well. He had weapons all well, and they won a Super Bowl. So that's not an excuse we can just throw out there and pretend doesn't exist, that once he got taken out of the equation, they went and won one. That's a reality. Yeah. I have totally changed my tune on him over the last year or so, because after the first year, I was like, F this guy, get out. I would have took anyone over him. I didn't care who it was, but he's proved me wrong in every way, shape, and form in his resiliency, which is a huge buzzword for the Lions right now. So I'm always going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I think Powell's absolutely right. This is pretty standard for any quarterback to at least have a bad stretch of a couple games, but you don't want to get cold before the playoffs is the problem. You want to get that cold streak out.
You want to get cold right now. This is when you want to get cold. You got in cold mid-season.
As long as you get hot again.
Which it's exactly mid-season. And but you can only let that cold streak last for 2. I'm going to cut off now. 2 games. This is it. You can't. Yeah. I'm not saying Stafford needs to go and throw. I'm not saying Stafford needs to go on next game. Golf needs to go next game. Complete 75% of his passes. Sorry, Milo's here. Complete 75% of his passes. Throw for 4 touchdowns and lead the Lions. No, maybe only throw the ball 25 times, complete 18 passes, throw a touchdown, run the ball, win the game, take the pressure. But the turnover battle, he needs to stop. He needs to have a clean sheet. And
it's good. I think this is perfect too, because I think you're absolutely right. And I think they can get right from here on forward. But I think the other part of this that will show like about that resiliency and about that we're going the right direction with him and that he can do these things. Looking at this schedule 5, 6, 7 weeks ago, didn't look at the back half of this schedule. It'll look too daunting. Denver really turning it around. Saints have a good defense. Bears starting to look like they have some signs in life,
It's a
not
tough
just rolling
schedule.
over. Vikings, Flores is getting that defense up and running pretty well right now. So we'll see how they do tonight. I'm not sure what's even going on in the game,
It's
but
0-0
it's
0-0 right
yeah.
now. I'm watching it.
okay. Yeah. So like I think there's some good
Bears
games up.
here in the
Dallas
third and fourth.
Cowboys.
You want me to give you play-by-play?
I just think
About
there's
to
a lot
snap
of good
it to
defense
Justin.
play coming up.
Justin
So
drop
it's going to be
back,
interesting.
screen.
Pat, I agree. And I think the best thing they could do, we talked about slowing things down. I'm going to take it one step further. Let's simplify the offense. You don't need to put up, you fucking hopefully don't need to put up 30 points to beat the Saints. I really hope that's not the case. Okay? Slow everything down, simplify it, go back to where Jared's comfortable, to what he loves doing. What is he, like prime example is you hear with a lot of coordinators now, you ask a quarterback, hey, give me your 10 best plays that you want to run. And hopefully they come out and run 7 out of 10 of those, 8 out of 10 of those. Like, get Jared comfortable because this is a mental game. Jared's body hasn't changed between now and week 1. This line's kept him pretty clean, okay? So slow it down, dumb it down. You don't need to pull out all the stops. You don't need to have the highlight reels on our phones, okay? We don't need that. Come out and win this game. Now the spread started at 3.5. It's now jumped up to 4. I think those injuries are mounting in New Orleans. No one's happy. Like we just said, Dennis Allen is on the hot seat. I don't want to see a flea flicker on Sunday. I really don't, Ben Johnson. I want to see you hand the ball off to David Montgomery 20 times, Jahmyr Gibbs another 15 times, fucking run this clock out, throw up 24, 25 points, hopefully give up 10, and walk away healthy. Walk away healthy and slow this game down. Make Jared feel confident again because right now, this is a pretty low point for him. I mean, the record's good, but he ain't stupid. Jared knows how bad he's looked. So slow it down, simplify it, dumb it down. It's football. At the end of the day, it's my big 5 guys in front of your big 5 guys, and we have to run you over more than you run us over, and we got to cross that invisible plane and score 6 points like 3-4 times a game and kick some field goals. And while we're at it, let's give some confidence to the kicker because this guy fucking sucks. He needs anything. If you got to call him a hooker, I don't know what you got to do. Maybe send him down to Bourbon Street. I don't know. But get this kicker some confidence. We don't need to see you, unless the game calls for it, don't go for it on 4th and 2. Don't go for it, man. Let him kick. He's in a dome. Lift his confidence up.
Listen, no one talked about it. The Lions turned down 3 field goals in that game. And when they had the ball back, and listen, we know 1 field goal changes the outcome of the game because it doesn't go the way it did, right? The final score. But no one's talking about that they turned away 3 field goals, that they ended up with no points. To where they would have had a chance on that last drive. They would have had the ball with 4 minutes left, down 5, down 6. Like, take points. Like, I hate that sometimes we don't take no points ever. There's a game, make it boring. I watched Denver that Sunday before. Denver, field goal. Ball to 2-yard line, kick and a field goal. They finally scored their first touchdown against Minnesota with 20 seconds left.
But they chipped away. They did what they had to do. They chipped away.
Stay in it.
The difference is one thing: defense. They have a defense they can trust to take field goals and not touchdowns.
That's true.
But you're also honestly, I think the defense plays with more confidence when no points are being scored. Like,
but you have to stop them from scoring to have no points being scored.
I don't know. Like, when we're going up and putting zeros, I don't think it's mentally good for the offense or the defense. Like, sometimes you just got to be like, all right, we got 3. It sucks, but you know what? We got 3. We want to score a touchdown. But sometimes I don't know, man. I don't agree. And honestly, I hope to God that Dan Campbell didn't turn away from Riley Patterson just because he missed an extra point. Like,
I'd
I
say
think
though,
that's
if
what
you
he
look
did,
back
though.
at-
but I think
Yeah.
that's bad.
I mean, if
I-
you look back at Chargers, probably the Bears, there might be another game in there somewhere that I'm forgetting. Like, with how much we go for it on fourth down, not doing that might have lost us those games.
Listen,
Like, it's a two-way street. Is all I'm saying. Like, it's like
I
we
know
love
it's a
Dan
two-way.
Campbell because he
Chargers. I mean, he
Yo,
did it
I
on
mean,
the last drive, and he did
Did you
it
forget
like
about the
on
Caldwell
4th and
days?
1.
I just like never go
Yeah.
on fourth and like inches just punting it, and you're just like, what are you doing? And like we kind of got a
Yeah,
guy
I
that's going
agree.
the other way.
I agree
but it's
100%
like,
with
it's
you,
No,
Pat.
but when,
polar
when,
opposites,
when
right?
it's when it's 4th and 5 and we're at the 27 and it's midway through the third quarter and we're down 6, kick a field goal to put us down 3. Like, I mean,
It's so tough because
maybe.
I think it's always situational. I think you're right in that. It's always
Mm-hmm.
situational. Who are we playing? What does our offense look like? Why aren't we taking points? And we're pretty confident like we can at least keep them to 3 at worst. They're not going to like score down and drive touchdowns on us all day, kind of like the Bears and stuff like that. But like, it's I think there's fourth down conversions of what kept us. Is why we're 8-3. Without them, we could.
And listen,
we could be 7-5.
Paul, I
It-
don't know
it-
that there
it-
was a 4th and 5 like in that game that was on the 25. I think if you look at every time he went for it, it was like
Fake
a
punt.
40 plus. It was like a 40 plus yard field goal, and I
on
think on with Riley, and I think he looked at Riley and he's like,
25 makes it a 43-yard field goal. Yeah, there was one.
Oh,
time it was
okay,
like
all right.
It was like a 44-yard field goal that he turned away.
Okay.
We were talking about it, and then
yeah,
he also turned away
Huh.
another time when we got the ball inside the 10-yard line. I think it was when we didn't convert.
it's a divisional game,
on
but
3rd, 4th, and 7th.
it's a divisional game,
I think at that point we need to get confidence.
right? I mean,
And
this is a
points.
game. This is a game you should have in hand, and you should use. It's in a dome. You should use this game to build some confidence back up with your kicker. I agree with you there, Paul. Where I agree with Pat, that's a divisional game. National. I mean, forget the national television aspect. It's a divisional game. It's a conference game. You really need to win that game. And man, like gun to my head, do I trust Riley Patterson or I trust Jared Goff? Even with Goff being the way he is at that moment in time, I'm still going to trust Goff every time.
Bad
I've-
interception by Dobbs, by the way.
I have
Nice.
the fucking Vikings too. God damn it. I teased it. I
There's
thought
a
I was
flag,
safe
though.
teasing it.
I think the flag's not a return. Listen, Dobbs might be
Dude,
coming
I-
down to reality too a little bit.
Oh, Dobbs is definitely coming back to reality. 100%. 100%. I don't want to what else do we have here? We got the Saints. We've talked a little about the future here. Do we have anything else? I don't want to beat a dead horse tonight.
I don't really have too much. I mean, I can keep going. Like,
I
this
think
is
I
like
think
our
I can
typical
tell you one
5:30 a.m.
thing
phone call.
with I can tell you this with offense. I do think there's elements to this scheme and more or less Ben Johnson's play calling and schematics where he gets way too cute and creates just bad plays.
When did
And
that
I think
happen?
one was that, like you mentioned earlier, that screen pass they threw on like 4th and 3 or 4. Like you don't throw behind this. Like that gave me flashbacks to the guy he replaced, and I was like, what the heck was that? And like having huge, what's that? Our 6th man on the line. What's his name? The lineman.
Skipper.
Having put him in motion and as eligible receiver and all this weird. It's like, dude, like don't put guys that can't perform at a high. I don't know. I just don't get it.
The fun
I really
and cute stuff. The fun and cute stuff. Sometimes you need to bring that out. Like we saw it at
time
Green
for
Bay
it.
last year. Like we had to bring out the hook and ladder to win that game, and that was crazy. But you had to do that, and I get that. But for me, especially earlier on in the game, it's still at hand. You're down by whatever we were, 6 points, 12 points. Get back to your basics. I don't care how versatile and good an offense you are. Get back to your basics. Nothing should be thrown behind the line of scrimmage.
You're the
Nothing.
home team and the better team and the
Right,
healthier team.
right.
That wasn't a game to get cute. Run
No.
the ball.
Pound the ball up the middle. Who cares if you win that game by
You
1
have
point?
better
We could correct
players
that
on
stuff.
the field. You could beat them straight up.
Right.
You know.
Right.
That's
No,
it.
absolutely.
Listen, it was Sunday
Absolutely.
night football against Aaron Rodgers. And you want to knock him out. You know what? And to tell you the truth, I don't know if the Lions call that hook and ladder if we have a chance to make the playoffs.
True.
I think they do.
They might.
I think
might
they
not.
do. I think
Yeah.
I think for better or for worse, this team coaches the same. Like we see the same, very similar team. And listen, for the record, all my complaining tonight, Holy shit. Thank you, God. I will take this over the days of Jimmy Caldwell, Pimp Stash Jimmy, and Jim Schwartz, and oh my God,
Yeah.
Patricia, what an asshole that guy was. I would take this over that any day, and it's not just in the record, man. It's not just in the record. It is calculated risks. We literally have a better fourth down percentage than we do a third down percentage, which is probably not a good thing, but it's telling. Like, Dan's willing to go for it,
Yeah.
and it's paid off. It's paid off because, Pat, you said it.
Downs are a lot shorter conversion, so that's part. Yeah.
So be it. Whatever. There's still pressure on fourth down, man. There's no coming back from that, right?
Anyone know like how many more times we've gone in for on fourth and other like the next team like that goes for? I'm just like curious, like because we just
It's
go
a
for
good
it.
amount.
Because I feel like that's again like kind of going back to offense and like play calling and like success of golf is like getting extra chances in every single game.
Well, they said who? Us and when we were playing the Chargers, us and Staley were the most aggressive coaches on fourth down.
Oh,
Staley started that. Yeah, he started that way.
Not to get fired.
He doesn't have a job. I mean, he but
dude, that could
not,
be Ben Johnson. If Ben Johnson were to get a coaching job, you'd want it to be with that quarterback, 1,000%.
To talk about Ben Johnson going to Carolina was like laughable. Like he's not that dumb to go there.
Well,
I would love to see the Lions call Staley today though and be like, hey, you want to come hang out in the locker room? Dude.
I'm curious, like what they would do, because I'm sure he would come back, and like players love him, so I have no qualms with that. And he'd probably be good to get a guy like that next to a guy like Gibbs as a rookie. I think would absolutely have just value in itself, if nothing else, but for that reason, I think it's a rock star move.
I do remember.
Now his mom is sick, so
I was about to say that was part of the reason he went to Carolina. His mom's not doing well, and he wanted to be closer to her.
One guy is our D-line coach left, and he was all. I call him because we had a better rush last year than whatever we're getting out of our D-line coach this year.
I forgot they took him.
D-line coach is young, and he left because I forgot what opportunity. He's still there, so he can't.
Think back, Paul. We were complaining about our pass rush this time last year until a certain someone was activated on Thanksgiving and got 8 sacks in 7 games.
Right? It can all change here really quickly. Like, Lions can win this week. They can win in Chicago. They're going to be favored in both games. And all of a sudden, CJ Garner comes back against Denver on that Saturday night game. Everyone's jacked up. Division's on the line. Houston's coming off the edge. And we're doing a great show on December 19th. And we're talking now, 2 seeds.
Well, Russell's starting to really feel himself, so they're going to kind of need everything they have for that Denver game, no doubt about it.
And they got good receiving weapons. I think that's exactly why you didn't see him trade them away. I think Peyton's just like, no, like we got this. I'm figuring it out. We're this close. And
credit to him.
Dan Campbell, MCDC all day for Coach of the Year, but if there's a close second, it is Peyton going from taking the worst beating in the NFL history to now pushing your way into the playoffs. I think is nothing short of just
it's a similar story. It's a similar story to the Lions. Listen, he delivered the speech to his team, and he gave the Dan Campbell speech about staying course, playing hard, and look what the Lions did last year. Turn around.
Where did Dan Campbell come from?
Speech or is the Peyton speech? Exactly.
Well, no,
it's the Peyton
speech. Did it. He gave his locker room. He talked about it. That's a fact. He gave them the Lions speech and talked to them about what the Lions did and almost made the playoffs. And you know what? I think Denver makes the playoffs.
That's good. I think they absolutely do too. Yeah, I think they're just really they're getting hot at the right time. I think that I think it looks up to they got a favorable
Raiders
schedule
this week. I think they'll win that game.
With that,
but
I think as I said, let's talk about. I know we're talking about other divisions, but I think it's something we didn't touch on. Is just kind of like the state of our division in this moment, and I think that is something to kind of talk about because I think we thought this was originally the worst division in the NFC. And I think it's probably about the most even keeled division with obviously the Lions being probably a sizable amount better than everyone else. But I thought the rest of this division was going to be 2-3 win teams. And they're all showing better resiliency. Obviously the Bears don't think they're going to do much more than they already have. They're kind of trying to identify if Fields is the guy or if they use one of those 2 draft picks for a quarterback. And then outside that, I think the Vikings coach is showing a lot of vibrato and still kind of managing the ship. I don't think Dobbs is going to do anything to compete.
Well, a lot of credit to Kevin O'Connell because that ship would have sank in a lot of other places, and he's kept it going. And I know that they're kind of doing it with smoke and mirrors with Dobbs, but hey, you know what, man? That's a lot better than just doing what the Jets did, right? Not to poke fun at the Jets here, but Vikings lost their quarterback, and yeah, I guess whatever. It kind of came at a win streak, but like not all that different at a point that the Jets were at, and the Jets just sat on their hands and they're like, nah, we're gonna keep rolling with Zach Wilson. Big mistake, right? Like, listen, even if the Vikings don't win too many more games, you didn't give up that much to get Dobbs, and if you're talking about draft differential, like, there's not all that much a difference between winning 5-6 games and winning 7 games, maybe 8. Like, you're not getting, yeah, I guess the draft order is different, of course, but the level of prospect you're getting is not all that different. Like, once you leave the top 5, top 10.
Yeah, when your team is controlled, your GM is Aaron Rodgers, and he's loyal to his boys, and he got close and tight with Aaron Wilson. He wanted Wilson to be the starter. You know, it's they didn't have a chance. But I don't know. I think the Jets are just a poorly coached team, and I'm not saying all solid. Like Nathan Hackett, what Peyton said, is the worst probably coach in all of football at any position. He's awful.
How does that
He's
statement sound right now? About
exactly.
a month and a half ago, he looked like an asshole.
Yeah.
And today,
he is. He's yeah. And Salah, he laughed at it. I mean, you know, I think Salah gets involved too much, and he has too much. He is that perfect like muscle head, like saying it's always like, you know, you do a shit job, but you have to point out what you did well, and like he has to say we stopped 4 or 5 of the best offenses. Like, come on, man, just
that's Matt Patricia vibes.
Well, it's a little different from Matt Patricia, because I would actually give him a little credit in saying like good coordinator, bad head coach. I think he's one of those prime guys that's like, hey, great coordinator, just not a head coach guy. Like, he just can't do it. Like, and I think you're seeing this. He talks about his teams. It's just like, you're just like, dude, like, just stop talking. Like, you're just digging yourself in a bigger hole. Like, I don't know how we feel about Zach. Oh, we're gonna give Timmy another shot next week. You're like, what are you doing up there? Like, if I was a fan of
Tim's not good enough to be an arena football quarterback, let alone, like, I don't think he could outplay a top-notch high school quarterback. And
stop that.
No, like a top recruiting, a top recruit high school kid that's being like, who's the top kid? Like, I would take Archie Manning when he
Archie's in Texas. Dylan Raiola.
But when he played in high school, I would take him on a team to outplay Tim Boyle. And you can't say anywhere that Tim Boyle has done it. He had 1 touchdown to 13 interceptions in college.
Dude, we have comments here I never brought up. I'm sorry. Stevie Mack, he's one of our listeners. I'm sorry, Pat. He's on every show. What's up with Malcolm Rodriguez? He's a fullback now. Who wants to take that on?
He made a nice catch.
I love it.
It's a good role for him, but I also thought it was too cute when they threw to him. I'm like, and you know what? Like,
Chris throwing shots here. Saw him catch a pass against the Packers. Unathletic. That was far from unathletic. No, fucking Rodrigo's a stud out there. You watch your mouth, Chris. Watch your fucking mouth.
If he turned into the next Nick, no one would say a thing. Or whatever that guy's name is on San Fran.
Rodrigo, he's the perfect teammate. You know, whatever you ask the guy to do, he says he does it with a smile. He shows up. You know, and he's gonna be that guy. He'll be a line for a long time. But I like him at fullback. I like him a lot better.
I like him more than Kabinda at the moment. Yeah. He's a lot more athletic than Kabinda. He could do a little. I don't think he's as powerful as Kabinda. But
older injured players, it's time to break ties. And this is another show with Charles Harris, Romeo Akawari, Kabinda. It's time to get rid of these guys.
Well, therein lies a huge. I think you just kind of mentioned that huge problem we have on defense. Obviously, GJ was kind of supposed to fill that role to an extent, but like we don't have like that. We don't have that 29-year-old guy still playing at like the top 10, 20 at his position within the locker room that can really kind of just like guide a young defense. So like, who are these guys leaning on? Like,
reminds me of Darius Slay.
Who?
What would have been
what he's talking about?
We didn't trade him. We didn't trade him away.
What we had, and then,
exactly. It's a guy you're looking at. Saying, this guy's 33, still playing at a high level. I'm going to listen to anything this guy says. That's why you pay a veteran a little extra money to come to your team to have that presence. And I do think we dropped the ball.
Listen, we ignored it in free agency. We should have brought some more guys here. I think we thought we had enough talent on the line. We don't. I think McNeil is a pretty damn good D tackle, and I think he'll be a D tackle for a long time. But we need a stud next to him. and we
Well,
need
you need to
another-
stud somewhere else on that line,
Yeah,
man.
and we need
You just need presence. You need presence, and it.
go
Paul-
sign me a veteran defensive lineman next year, even if he's 30, 29. Someone go get me Zaire Smith, go get me Hunter, go get me someone, and then draft me a lineman.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I tell you what's got to be a priority, and if it's not in the draft, definitely in free agency, you got to prioritize kicker. Like, we can no longer roll out Riley Patterson or some of these other guys, man. You got to figure something out at kicker, and that's an off-season discussion, but you need to figure something out. You need to. And I wouldn't rush.
If
I
our
wouldn't
season
rush.
if our season ends on a missed field goal, from like 41, or it's short from 49.
Yeah.
Like that's
It's
Well,
gonna be-
and we saw that happen to the Bears, man. Like,
yeah.
it's a very real thing. They were better than the Eagles
Oh,
in that
yeah,
game.
yeah.
They were
Yeah.
better than the Eagles, and they know it.
I'm
And
actually
they-
surprised they haven't given someone else a shot. You know,
There's not much
Did-
else.
is that
Did we
scotch
still
or
have
is
that one guy?
tea?
Who?
You drink? What are you drinking? Scotch or tea?
Oh, me? No, I'm
Yeah.
drinking bourbon, High West.
Okay, bourbon. Yeah.
I just don't want to drink. I never want to drink anything from the bottle or whatever. Well, not that. Wouldn't drink it from the bottle. That's a little.
Advertising. I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Advertising. Yeah.
yeah. You run into some issues with the YouTube.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. What else we got, Paul?
I'm good. I'm good. We can yeah, hopefully we get a W. We need that W. And it's listen, I think it's not an overreaction, but I think what we're doing is normal. Everyone's nervous. What if you lose another game? You know, you win this week, everything will settle down. You know, I won't be at the game this week, but I'll be back in Chicago. You know, hopefully watch us go 2-0 against the Bears this year. Final week.
Yeah, I think this is a little more to do with like how their composure as a team, like how they're handling success, and I think that's why you might be seeing a little like more pressure on young guys and them just not knowing how to handle it completely, and then maybe thinking about it a little
Yes.
too much, and that could also be part of this. Because like, yeah, remember like, these
Yes.
guys are average. I know we just signed someone that brought the average age up. I can't remember who it was.
Irvin.
Pretty tremendously. Yeah, Bruce Irvin. So the average age is what he used to be.
Give me Marcus Peters right now. I would have Marcus.
Yeah.
I would take him
Peters.
right now. Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
He
Yes.
signed $3 million. He'll be under $1 million for the rest of the season.
100%.
800,000.
And that would
Go
a,
get
a
him.
great veteran presence to put around
Go get
cornerbacks. Like I'd have no problem with that. And like they got to do something. I just don't think something
By
has
the
to be
way,
added to
another-
that defense.
By the way, another interception for Dobbs.
Love to see it.
I knew I
Hey,
should have
maybe-
bet fucking Bears money line.
It's still 3-0.
Maybe the
can't score.
Bears defense is just coming around. Who knows?
Well, honestly, the best
Maybe
thing
we
for the
just lost
Lions.
maybe we barely just beat a good Bears team.
Maybe
And
we
lost
did.
them.
I don't think so,
Maybe
but
we're-
maybe what we.
It's all
what we-
about optics.
Come on, Pavo. Come on, Pavo. But
Perspective.
the best thing for the Lions is for the Vikings to lose tonight. I mean,
Listen,
You
I
don't
was
wanna
gonna
just
say that- I
back
was
into
gonna
the
say that
playoffs, man.
I was going to say that earlier. Minnesota loses today. The division's over because they're not good. And we're and they're not.
let's
good.
win on Sunday before we say
They're
that
not,
because
I agree, but it'll pretty much be over. We're talking that if they lose today with 6 games to go, like they pretty much have to go 6-0, and we got to go 3-3,
right.
which could happen, but I don't see them going 6-0.
I'd say the only
Fair.
I don't want to say guaranteed loss that we prospectively have, but I'd say one that's pretty hard to beat the way they're playing is the Dallas game. It's the only one I really see that's going to be a tough game to win because they're
Yeah.
playing at a high level right now.
But
Like
you never know
Dak's
which
playing his
Dallas
best
team you
ball. Their
get to.
defense looks good. Very true,
Listen,
but I think they're more well-rounded than they used to be.
But you know what? I think I look at their average team win percentage of the teams they beat this year, and it's like 200. Like they have not beat a team that has more than 2.
But how badly they
Well,
are
not
beating
Who is
them
this?
is insane.
Minnesota?
I think the Cowboys.
No, Dallas.
Oh, the
They're beating
Cowboys?
teams by like 30 points regularly. That's a sign that like
Yeah.
you're supposed to beat teams with 200% like that, not throw 4 interceptions and come up with a last minute field goal. You know what I mean? Like that's the difference. And
Yeah,
that's
but
what I
even
look
to
at.
the Bears thing, though, I don't think we're ready for the Bears, and I could fall on coaching like
You
know,
talking about the
they-
Packers?
for the Bears
Pa-
when we won. Like the Bears game, you know, and I listened to someone talk about this. Is that I always say his name wrong. We talked about this on my last podcast. Like they really tried making Justin Fields a pocket passing quarterback the first 6-7 games of the year. They forced him to stay in the pocket. They didn't want him to run too much, and it didn't work.
They put him
And-
in a West Coast offense. Like, what are you doing?
And then all of a sudden against us, when we didn't know what we're going to get from, he all of a sudden turned into going with his last year. I'm going to run 18, 19 times. I think the most he ran prior to this was like 7 or 8 times. Like, so they're calling run plays. They pretty much said, screw it. We're going to be running it. And
I think
I got to get going after this. But
Yeah.
the one thing that I think, and I could be wrong, but if we clean up our mess, I think a lot of our mistakes, what hurt us was that we were just as bad against the Bears, but we had a good fourth quarter or a good 4 minutes. But I think we came out and looked just as sloppy against the Packers. And I think a lot of the mistakes come out on a short week. We watched film on Monday. We had a walkthrough on Tuesday, a walkthrough on Wednesday, and we played another game. And we kind of needed to get the pads on. We kind of need to get into a little bit game form and clean up some of the mistakes we're making. I mean, I just think that coming now and having a real week of practice and an extra day like a Monday today, which they practiced today, didn't they? I don't really know if they report injuries, but I think they had a
The
practice.
Lions?
no, they
Yeah, I think
practice
they had
tomorrow.
like a light practice today.
Yeah, I don't think they practiced today.
No, they don't have to report injuries, but I think they practiced. They showed up, and I think they have tomorrow off, and then they'll go back Wednesday, Thursday. Anyways, they get to go back to having a regular week of practice, and I think that'll help them out. But yeah, that's all I got. No.
All right, Pat, you got anything else?
I don't think anything of substance. I think this is a game that's going to tell a lot about, I think with where the Saints are right now and their injuries and kind of just not being able to find their footing as a team altogether. Like this is a huge win no matter whether they win or not. That's not the case. A win that's close still gives me a little worry because it shouldn't be close by all metrics. And that's kind of what I'm going to be looking for. Like, how close does this game actually look, feel?
And I'm not really looking.
And score doesn't always.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not looking at the score particularly.
Yeah.
Like what I'm looking about. What we're all really looking for here is the Lions to be in control the entire game. For them to have their gun. For them to have their finger on the trigger, not the other way around.
I don't want to see practice squad receivers tearing up Jerry Jacobs.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'll say to Powell. I think they're.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be right that they're going to come out hot with that run, and I think it's only going to be to set up a massive JMO play action play, and I have a feeling on that one. I don't know why.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, boys.
All right, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Stevie Mac, once again. Chris, for tuning in. We appreciate it, and maybe we'll see you later in the week. If not, we will see you next Monday. So thank you.
Take care. Go
Cheers.
Bears.